After completing my 10th class exams in 1979, my father suggested that I go and help my father's uncle and learn astrology. Mathematics being my favorite subject, I learned the calculations. My grandfather taught me how to calculate the inclinations of each planet and how to calculate the lagna and the meridian center MC, and he gave me some birth charts to draw. Thus, I learned how to draw the birth charts first and showed interest in predictions. So, my grandfather told me some predictions, some of the tips that he usually uses for predictions, and after learning those tips, I documented some of them. I verified with my father. While my father and my grandfather have laid the foundation for me to get interested in astrology, for almost a decade or 2 decades, I didn't show any interest.
Welcome to Sastry Karra's Astrological series. This is the series where I'm going to explain some of the astrological fundamental analysis rules, and with some examples I'm going to give you the rule and then provide you with the example. In this series, this video presentation, what I'm going to do is to take the example of few charts and then see when for a Bihuruga Sarla Paddhati rule, how would that particular rule gets activated. When the rule gets activated, how would the transit planets help that particular rule to get further activated and help the native to make that particular rule feel the outcome of that particular rule. The first example I'm going to do is the first Bihuruga Sarla Paddhati rule, that is states when sun at the age of 25, sun activates its natal position. That means after the 24th birthday and before the 25th birthday, what you are going to see is that sun is going to activate wherever it is staying. Here I'm going to give you an example. Like, see, for when you look at this example here, what you are going to see is that in this chart the sun is in the 9th house. So the native, when the native completes his 24th birthday and goes before the 25th birthday, what you are going to see is that this particular sun is going to activate the 9th house. So what I'm going to do is to explain more in detail, like this, taking 2 or 3 examples and going to explain how when a particular native's sun is well positioned in the chart and the native completes his or her 24th birthday, how this particular BSP rules gets activated. And at that point, the transit sun and other slow moving transit planets like Saturn, Jupiter and Rahu, I'm going to show you that during that period when the Bihuruga Sarla Paddhati rule gets activated and transit sun, how does transit sun help that particular rule to be get activated, and how does the other 3 slow moving transit planets, how are they going to react? Are they going to help the native, or are they going to make the impact negative part of it? Let me explain you with the help of these 3 examples. The first example is my own chart, because at the age of 20 after my 24th birthday, the sun got activated, the 9th position. Sun is in the 12th house lord residing in the 9th position, and it activated the Bhagyasthanamo, and because of that activation, I got a job in Dubai and left the country. So let me go you more in detail and explain to you how.
Let me start now explaining this particular BSP rule. What you see here is that the BSP rule states that during the 25th year, sun activates its natal position. That means wherever the sun is there at the time of birth, that particular natal position,
that bhava of that particular house will be activated by sun, and there are certain conditions that we need to consider before we check whether the BSP rule is validate the BSP rule. First and foremost, you have to see is that every planet has a exalted and debilitated positions. So for this particular BSP rule, what we have to see is that natal sun is not debilitated. The first rule we have to check it, because if natal sun is debilitated, that means if sun is in Libra, then the sun is weakened, and because of that the sun could not activate whatever the natal position Libra, whatever the bhava of that Libra zodiac sign is. The second thing what you have to see is that if sun is not debilitated, if the sun is exalted, then the activation will be highly visible and it will be very, very strong. If sun is neither exalted nor debilitated, just staying in a particular house other than Libra and Aries, then what you have to do is that you have to look at the house that natal sun owns. That's the first thing we have to look at it, and that means the bhava of that house will be part of the activation, and then the house where it resides. Then what you have to do is that you have to look for the activation, that something what event gets activated. The way you have to look at it is to look at the bhava of the house where sun resides and the bhava of the house that sun owns, and you've got to look at it like correlate that to these two houses and identify what type of events are possible for activation. Remember, the native will be between 24th complete age 25th year, that means completed 24th year and entering the 25th year. So you have to look at the native's gender, the social and economic situation where the native is residing during that 25th year. So you have to look all these things and then figure it out what events are possible for the sun to activate it. Once you come to know that once you have figured it out what events it is going to activate it, the next step would be is to look for the transit sun. This is the very important point. This is the reason why I am presenting this video presentation. Transit sun in 1 year, it goes through the whole 12 zodiac signs. So when sun activates after the native turns 24th birthday and before the 25th birthday, the sun, when it activates its natal position, the bhava of its natal position along with the house that it owns, then you have to look at the transit sun. Where is the transit sun in the 12 months? And then you got to see is the transit sun in which house. When the transit sun enters, will that particular event gets activated or amplified and gets more stronger, the activation becomes more stronger. This is very important that you have to look at it. Particularly when transit sun is in Libra, where it gets debilitated, or when transit sun is in Aries, where it gets exalted. That's the point where the chances are extremely high for the sun, where whatever it is activating its natal position, the native will be able to see the impact of that particular event. Let me give you a small example, my own chart, and show you how it is happening. Here is the first example for this particular BSP rule, how to look for the BSP rule with respect to the transit analysis, transit planets. So the first example is my own chart. Here you can see the Bihurgu Chakra Paddhati. Using Bihurgu Chakra Paddhati, what I did is I figured it out when is the 25th age. And here you can see the 4 BSP rules. The first 4 are when the native, when I was in my 24th year. So you see that until June 1988, nothing happened in my life specifically that makes a turn in my career. Exactly somewhere in June 88 through June 89 is when sun implements itself in the house it is residing. So if you see it, sun is here in the 9th house. So and it has to implement the 9th house is Bhagyasthanamu and Dharmasthanamu, and that's what it is going to implement in that year. And because sun is not debilitated and sun is not afflicted, if you look at it, Sun is not at all afflicted. The Saturn's third aspect is on 8th house, so Sun is not afflicted. Sun is not co-joined with Rahu, so Sun is not afflicted at all. And the Sun is the 12th house lord. 12th house is foreign lands, settling in a foreign land. Because of that reason, what happened is during the 25th year, somewhere in January 1989, I left to Bombay, and from there in April 1989, I got a job and I left to Dubai in April 1989. Let me now start talking about the natal chart for the first example. This is the my own birth chart, where you can see me. In the chart you can see Sun residing in the 9th house and in the 9th house the owner is Venus. The 9th house lord is Venus. Venus is the lord of the 2nd, and the 9th house lord residing in the 10th house. So the most important thing you have to see is that when Sun is residing in a house, who is the owner and what's the relationship with that with the owner, between the relationship between the Sun and the owner. This is the Sun and Venus, so we don't need to worry about that part of it. Sun is now co-joined with Moon, the 11th house lord, Mercury, the 1st and the 10th house lord, in the same 9th house. And Venus is the lord of the 9th house, and Venus is residing in the 10th house. That means there's a Parivartana Yoga between Mercury and Venus, the 10th and 9th house lords. There's a Parivartana Yoga between the 10th and 9th house lords. So what happens is that when Sun activates the 9th house, because of this Parivartana Yoga, the relationship between the 9th and 10th becomes stronger and any activation that happens in the 9th house would relate in one way or the other pertaining to the 10th house. That's the reason why when the Sun activated for me at the age of 25, I got a job. Job is nothing but the 10th house career. And the job resembles earning money, which is nothing but the 9th house Bhagyasthanam. So Sun activated the 9th house, and because of this Parivartana Yoga, and because Sun is correlated with the 11th house Labhasthanadipati and the 10th and the 1st house Lord Mercury, whatever happened has to happen to self, pertaining to Labhasthanam, which is gains, Bhagyasthanam, which is earnings, and 10th house career. Having said all these things, now the question comes is, what else can Sun do when it activates it? It's the lord of the 12th house. When the lord of the 12th house activates the 9th house, whatever the activation has happened has to do something pertaining to the 12th house, because it owns the 12th house too. So 12th house is foreign land, traveling to foreign countries or settling in a foreign land. When you look at the career perspective, these are the two things that you can think about. So Sun, when it activated the 9th house at the age of 25, Sun, because of that activation of the 9th house, the 1st and the 10th house Lord Mercury got activated. Because the house is owned by Venus and there is a Parivartana Yoga between Mercury and Venus, Venus also got activated, and Venus is in the 10th house, so naturally the career got activated. Rahu is in the 10th house, so naturally something that is not normal pertaining to career should happen. And the 12th house, because Sun owns the 12th house, it should be a foreign land, travel to a foreign land or work in a foreign country. So how when the Sun has activated, you hear Rahu came into picture, and Rahu has provided me a career that was not well known in Hyderabad during 1988 and 1989. I got a job as a computer programmer, and in 88-89, very few people knew what exactly is computers and what exactly is meant by COBOL programming or computer programming. So, which is not a normal job title that you can expect in that area during that era, between 88 and 89-90. So Rahu has played its own role for giving me an opportunity to work in something that is against the social norms. So let me go and see what else can we do when we go to the transit analysis. And then now that we have seen the natal planet Sun activating and how the other houses got impacted because of the Sun's activation, let's go and look at each and every transit, slow moving transit planet, which is Saturn, Rahu and Jupiter, and also we will look at the transit planet Sun. Remember, here in Vimshottari Dasa, when Sun has activated the 9th house at the age of 25, the Vimshottari Dasa is Jupiter Mahadasa is running. That's a very important thing that you have to look at. It is Jupiter Mahadasa is running. Jupiter is the 4th house lord. The 4th and the 7th and the 4th house lord Jupiter, who is residing in the 8th house, Jupiter's Mahadasa is running. So we got to be very careful here and look at, since natal Jupiter has no way related to the 9th house or the 10th house or the 6th house, 2nd house, any of these houses, we got to see is transit Jupiter anyway responsible for this particular event to be amplified because of the Jupiter Mahadasa. Let me go and talk in more detail about how we can do that one with the help of the transit. Now let me go and look at the transit analysis. The first and the foremost thing I would like to look at the transit analysis is in January 1st, 1989. Because I got my master's degree in June 88 or July 88. So, and from then onwards I was just trying for a job here and there. I couldn't get a job. I was working as a math tutor. So now let me go and see on 1st January 1989, where are the transit planets. The most important thing that you first look into is the slow moving transit planets. If you look at it, transit Sun and transit Saturn. Remember, transit Sun and transit Saturn, they both are in the 4th house owned by Jupiter. Jupiter is the Mahadasa that is running, and Ketu is in the 4th house. That means from 10th house Rahu is directly looking at the 4th house. So Rahu has to, as I said earlier, Rahu has to do something pertaining to career, which is not a social norm, which is against the social norm, or something that the society is not aware of, a profession that the society is not aware of. Now, because Rahu is looking at the 4th house, transit Saturn is there, transit Sun is in the 4th house, and Saturn is the 6th house lord. 6th house deals with employment conditions. So this particular activation has created some change in the 4th house. 4th house deals with change in residency, Sukhasthanamo, that means home life environment. So this particular event has made the native me have a change in my residence, and that somewhere in the first week of January I left to Bombay in search of a job. Now let's go and look at the other slow moving transit planet Rahu. Transit Rahu is in Aquarius, that is the 6th house, employment conditions. See, natal Rahu is in the 10th house, career. Transit Rahu is in the 6th house, employment conditions, and transit Rahu has co-joined with natal Saturn. There transit Saturn is looking at natal Rahu, and here transit Rahu is co-joined with natal Saturn. Because of this, that's the 10th house and this is the 6th house. The relationship between the 10th house and 6th house became so strong that any activation that the Sun is going to do pertaining to Bhagyasthanamu has to have a direct impact on career and employment conditions. Now that because Saturn is in the transit, Saturn is in the 4th house and Sun is in the 4th house too, that will indicate that there will be some sort of a change in residence for this particular native when the activation goes on. And then comes the most important thing is Jupiter. Remember I told you Jupiter Mahadasa is running at this time, so we got to go and look at where is transit Jupiter residing at that time. The time is January 1989. If you look at it, transit Jupiter is in the 9th house exactly. It's in the 9th house where it is co-joined with the 1st and 10th house lord Mercury, the 12th house lord Sun, and the 11th house lord Moon. It is in the Bhagyasthanamo, the 9th house, and the 9th house, from 9th house it is directly looking at the 3rd house. So transit Jupiter, with the Jupiter Mahadasa running and transit Jupiter being in the 9th house, the house that Sun has activated and made it so active, and because of that activation We know that natal Mercury and natal Moon and natal Venus, all the three got activated because of this Sun activating the ninth house. Now you see transit Jupiter is also in a house that is activated from a positive perspective. So Jupiter has to work, do something. And fortunately, because it is a Jupiter Mahadasa, Jupiter had to just be a catalyst to whatever the activation that is going on. It became a catalyst here. That's the reason why the most important thing you have to look is the change of residence. That's the first step. Nothing happens all like a big bang. It goes by step. So when any planetary combination is providing an opportunity, it doesn't provide the opportunity directly. It takes the baby steps. That's particularly if the opportunity is through a slow moving transit planets, then it will be very, very slow. So that's the reason why you can see that in January, I have no idea that I will be going to Dubai. I have no idea that I will get a job. My only intention at that time was to find a job in Bombay. That's it. Because it's a computer program, because I want to be a computer programmer, and computer programmer jobs are not available, are only available in SEEPs, Andheri in Bombay. So my only option is to go to Bombay and look for a job. That means I have to do a change of residence. That's exactly what the Sun is trying to do. If you look at it, Sun has already activated the ninth house in June 1988. By January 1989, that activation got amplified and that has been turned into act. Whatever the activation the Sun has to do, it has turned into an event when transit Sun and transit Saturn are in the fourth house. That's when this particular activation happened. So let me go and see on 1st April when I attended the interview. Let me go and see how these transit planets are when the Sun has activated the Bhagyasthanam. Let's now go and look at the transit analysis on 1st April. That's the day when I attended the interview in Bombay and got selected. So the day I got selected for the job, and that in a foreign country, the first job in a foreign country, let me go and see how the transit planets have helped me to get that job. First and foremost, when you look at it, we will look at the slow moving planets. Saturn, transit Saturn is still in the fourth house, but this time on January 1st, it is co-joined with Sun. So the Sun activation has made me to leave the home life environment. So I left Hyderabad and went to Bombay. That's in January 1989. At that time, Sun is co-joined with Saturn. Now in April, Saturn is still in Sagittarius, which is the fourth house. So directly looking at the 10th house where Rahu is there, and the 9th house, 2nd and 9th house Lord Venus is still there. So it is looking at that. It did not change. It won't change at that point. And the other slow moving planet is Rahu. Rahu is still in the 6th house Aquarius. That means it's co-joined with the natal Saturn, the 6th house Lord. 6th house deals with employment conditions. So look here, transit Saturn is looking at the 10th house where natal Rahu is residing. Transit Rahu is co-joined with the natal Saturn in the 6th house. So the two slow moving planets did not move and it just stopped there. The third slow moving planet is Jupiter. On January 1st, 1989, it is in the 9th house, co-joined with the 12th house Lord Sun, 11th house Lord Moon, 1st and the 10th house Lord Mercury. In April, it is still in the same house. So the three major slow moving planets did not change between January and April. That's the reason why you see that whatever the event that has activated by Sun in June 1988, the activation continued because the slow moving planets were still lying there in the same house. So the activation, there was no disturbance in the activation. Then comes the most important thing I want to show you on 1st April, why I went to the job interview and why I got selected from an astrological perspective. You will be surprised to see that transit Sun, transit Mercury, transit Venus, the three important planets, all the three important planets are in Pisces, which is the 7th house. 7th house deals with short-term foreign travels. Yep. So when transits natal sun activated the ninth house and natal Mercury is there, and there is a Parivartana Yoga between Mercury and natal Venus and natal Mercury, what's happening? The three important planets, the transit planets, transit Sun, transit Venus, and transit Mercury, all the three are co-joined in the seventh house, and guess what? They're directly looking at the first house. That's the reason why on 1st April, without any experience, without any money, I still got selected. I got selected for that particular job to go abroad. So if you look at it, when the natal planets has activated any event, how important it is to see the role of transit planets, particularly the planets that have a positive impact on the natal. So let me go and see on 26th April, the day when I took off from Bombay airport to Dubai. Let me go and see what's the minor change in the transit planets that happened. So on 26th April, if you look at the chart, the only transit planet that changed is Mercury. Yes, that's a very important thing we have to look at. It is Mercury, of course Sun also. We'll talk about Sun later. First, Mercury. Mercury has moved from Pisces, the 7th house, from my 7th house all the way to the 9th house, where natal Mercury is already residing. Mercury is the lord of the 1st and the 10th house. So transit Mercury has co-joined with transit Jupiter in the 9th house on 26th April 1989. That is the time when you have the Jupiter Mahadasa running, the most important thing. And Mercury is the 1st and the 10th house lord. And while transit Rahu and transit Saturn are activating the employment conditions and the career part of my life, then comes the most important part is, where is transit Sun? Sun is the one which activated the Bhagyasthanamu at that time. When the natal Sun has activated the Bhagyasthanamu and all the other transit planets are helping the natal Sun to make that event happen, let's go and see what exactly is transit Sun doing. On 26th April, if you look at it, transit Sun is in Aries. That means it got exalted. That's the reason why when on 1st April, when Sun was in Pisces and I got selected, I had to wait all the way till transit Sun moved to Aries, where it got exalted, and once it got exalted, the event had been solidified. That's the reason why it took me 25 days to the day I got selected to the day I had to leave the country. There were 25 days because transit Sun took some time to move from Pisces to Aries. When it went to Aries, the first 5 degrees of transit Sun, it will not do anything because it is in the Rashi Sandhi. So I have to wait till transit Sun inclination has gone above 6 degrees. So when that happened, by the time transit Sun came to 10 degrees or 11 degrees, that's when in Aries, that's when the Sun got fully exalted and I left the country and started my career. So this is how you have to look at when a BSP rule is there, and if you think that the BSP rule is fine to get act validated, once you know that the natal planets, what are the activation that as per the BSP rules, what are the activation that the natal planets are supposed to do it, once you understand that, what you have to do is that, because the activation is for the whole, the BSP rule sometimes tells for the whole year, so what you have to do is you have to go for that particular whole year, that particular transit planet, where is it, what is it, with whom is it co-joining, which houses is it looking at it, is it getting any malefic impact, or is it co-joining with any malefic planets. You got to look all these things to summarize it and to tell exactly in that 1 year when that particular event happens, when is the chance, when are the best possibilities for that event to solidify. I'll give you one more example, exactly the same way how Sun has activated the 25th year for a particular native and how that native became a world famous.
Here I am including the second example. This is the birth chart of the famous Bollywood actor Salman Khan. He was born on December 27th, 1965, and if you look at the Bihuru Sarla Paddhati rule, his 24th birthday is in December 1989 and his 25th birthday is in December 1990. So Sun has to activate between December 1989 and December 1990. Let's go and look at what is the role of Sun here. If you look at it, Sun is in the 9th house, Bhagyasthanamu, and the Bhagyasthanadipati Jupiter is exactly in the 7th house from natal Sun. So Jupiter is looking, the Bhagyasthanadipati is looking at its own house and Sun is residing in the Bhagyasthanamu. So naturally the Bhagyasthanamu or the opportunity to earn money got activated at that point. And Sun is the 5th house lord, so probably the activation is related with his parents and especially with his father. That you can see it in the, if you go through his family history. I think his father is a well-known known person in the Bollywood industry, and that's how he got introduced into Bollywood industry too. So you can clearly say here that how Sun has being the 5th house lord has made his father the influence of his father to earn money, the Bhagyasthanam. Now the next thing what you have to do is, where is Saturn? Because the reason why you got to look at Saturn is because you got to see where is Saturn and is there any way that Saturn is looking at Sun either directly or indirectly. Saturn is in the 11th house, so Saturn's 10th aspect is on 8th house. That means Saturn is not looking at 9th house at all. So the Sun is nowhere got afflicted. Even if you look at the Rahu also, Rahu is in 12th house, that means 2nd house, that means Rahu is going to look at the 8th house too. So either neither Saturn nor Rahu had any affliction or any sort of a relationship with Sun, who is residing in the 9th house. This is exactly what happened in the previous example also. In my chart, neither Rahu nor Saturn had any relationship with Sun while Sun is in Bhagyasthanam. This is exactly the same way. So the Sun, when it gets activated, it has to create the Bhagyasthanam for the native, and the relationship is through 5th house. 5th house is father, and so somehow with the influence of his father or with the help of his father, he was able to start earning money. If you look at the Wikipedia, I think it was somewhere in that 1989, his first movie was a super hit, Maine Pyar Kiya, and that particular movie has earned him his first nomination for the best actor in the Filmfare. After that, in 1990, there was another movie called Bhagi, and which was a super hit, and during the same 1990, he was acting in another movie called Sergeant, but that was Patar Ki Pool, but that was released in 1991. Same in the year 1990, he was also acting for another movie called Sergeant, which was also released in 1991. So the movies that he were released in 89 and 1990, and the movies that he worked heavily during 1990, so all those movies were super hit, and all those movies has brought him the ability to earn money. This is how the Sun not just earn money, the fame and money both at the same time. So this is how the natal Sun, when it activated the 9th house, it has gave the opportunity for this native to earn money. Having said that, the native had the BSP rule, how it got activated by the Sun during his 25th year. Let's go and look at the Vimshottari Dasa. Is that Vimshottari Dasa cooperating the native? Remember, as soon as you see the Sun being not afflicted by the malefic planet Saturn and Rahu, the next thing you do is to go and see what is the Vimshottari Dasa at the time when the native was 25 years old. Here, for this particular native, it is the Jupiter Mahadasa and Saturn Antardasa. So
go back and see what is Jupiter. Wow. Jupiter is the 9th house lord, Bhagyasthana Adhipati. He is residing in the 3rd house and having a direct aspect on his own house, Bhagyasthanamo. So naturally Jupiter is going to, being the benefic planet, is going to make sure that during his period, that means from 1986 all the way till 2002, he has to make money. That is for sure. With Sun activating during his 25th year, that particular making the money, because the Sun is in the Bhagyasthanamo, got very highly amplified, and the movies that he acted have become a super hit, and he became one of the richest man in the Bollywood industry. That is exactly during the Jupiter Mahadasa, and when in his at the age of his 25, when he was 25 years old. Now let's go and see how Saturn is helping them. Saturn is the 10th house lord, residing in his own house, 11th house. Okay, that is the Labhasthanamo. So with Saturn, the 10th house lord, residing in 11th house, he has somehow made sure that the 10th house, that whatever the 10th house is there, which is his career, is being used as the baseline to make money. Here in the 10th house, what you see is the very Venus, the 2nd house lord, and the 7th house lord, and Mars, the most important, the 1st house lord in 10th house. Because Venus and Mars are in the 10th house, that's the reason why you can see that Venus is for entertainment and Mars is for some sort of a violent behaviors. That's the reason why in all the three movies, all the movies that were super hit between 1980 and 1991, he was being portrayed as a violent, angry young man. That's exactly what Mars is supposed to show, to prove it, and Venus, being an entertainer, has proved that. And also, if you look at it, Venus is having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Seventh aspect is on the 4th house, where Moon is the Lord. Moon is your mind. So naturally, this particular native, during this period, not only that the Sun activation has made him famous, but it's also the Jupiter Mahadasa running and Saturn Antardasa, the both. Thus the Vimshottari Dasa is also cooperated this native to make money when Sun activated the Bhagyasthanamo.
Let's go and see how the transit planets are in December 1989. That's when the native completed his 24th birthday. So let's go and see what exactly is going to happen. If you look at the chart, transit Saturn is still in Sagittarius. Remember, Sagittarius is the 9th house for the native, and where Sun is residing. So there is a clash between transit Saturn and natal Sun, because they both are enemies. So there is a clash, and that clash you can notice it when you see his Wikipedia. There was a little bit of struggle for him to stabilize himself during that period and prove that what he can do. So along with that, transit Rahu is in the 10th house at that time in December 1989. Transit Rahu is in 10th house, and transit Venus is also in 10th house in December 1989. That means transit Rahu and transit Venus, they both are co-joining with the natal Venus in 10th house in December 1989. That's the reason why you can see that the natives, his profession being an entertainer, and with Rahu being part of it in the 10th house, the native has got an opportunity to become an entertainer in a different way. And that was nothing but being an angry young lover, romantic hero. Angry young romantic hero. That's how he got introduced to the Bollywood, in the Bollywood industry. That was in December 1989, when the movies Maine Pyar Kiya and Baghi, those are the two movies that were released in 1990, but their shooting was done in 1989. And also in 1990, before his 25th birthday, there were two other movies where the shooting was done. One is called Patar Ke Phool and the other is Sergeant. So all the 4 movies that he acted between 89 and 1990 December, when he was acting there, all the movies, what you can see is that the transit Saturn is in Bhagyasthanamo and transit Rahu is in 10th house. And not only that, from transit Jupiter, you got to look at transit Jupiter. Transit Jupiter is exactly in the 7th house from transit Saturn. That's a very important thing here, because the Netu is going through the Jupiter Mahadasa and Saturn Antardasa during that period. So when Saturn Antardasa started, the transit Saturn being the 10th house lord and residing in the 11th house, and the transit Saturn residing in the 9th house and having a direct look at the transit Jupiter, and the 9th house lord being the Jupiter itself. So all these combinations had made this particular Netu to shine when Sun has activated the Bhagyasthanamu. These combinations, these transit planets, they have brought some strength to this particular Netu, so that his Bhagyasthanamu gets activated. When Sun activates the Bhagyasthanamu, he starts earning money. Now let's go and see what exactly is happening in December, around December 1990. What you can see around that period is that transit Saturn is still in Sagittarius. That means it is still co-joined with the natal Sun over there in the Bhagyasthanamu, and the transit Rahu is still in the 10th house. So his career that has started in December 1989, the way it has gone through, it still continued the same rhythm all the way till December 1990. That's the reason why you see him 2 movies being super hit, and 2 movies for another 2 future super hit movies. He was doing the shooting and acting in those 2 other movies. But the major difference you can see is that transit Jupiter has moved from the 3rd house to the 4th house, because he has moved to the house owned by Moon. Moon is the owner of the 4th house here. So since Jupiter has moved a little bit on to the 4th house, whatever the awards and whatever the stuff that he's supposed to get, it has been linked more towards the Moon being the motherland, more being towards the country. That's the reason why you can see is that all the movies that were super hit were mostly inside the country, his own country. Actually, I should say in India. This is in India. And now Rahu being residing in the 10th, transit Rahu residing in the 10th house for the Netu, is now looking at transit Jupiter somewhere in the 4th house. 10th house to 4th house is the 7th house. So, and you remember in the 10th house we have natal Venus and natal Mars. Now we have transit Rahu. All the 3 are directly looking at the 4th house where transit Jupiter is residing, and it's the transit Jupiter's Mahadasa is still going on, and then Saturn's Antardasa is still going on. That's the reason why during the whole period, when Sun has activated the Bhagyasthanamu for this particular Netu, what you could see is that the transit Rahu, transit Saturn and transit Jupiter, all the 3 had somehow had a relationship with this, but the house that is that got activated, the Bhagyasthanamu house that got activated. And you can see the impact how these 3 transit planets helped the Netu to move forward and prove that how he could the activation, how it was successful for this particular Netu. Thank you for watching my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. More presentations will be coming up very soon, and let me know if you have any other suggestions or anything. Feel free to update the feedback in the YouTube channel, or feel free to send email to this email address, or you can even go over to this blog and post your questions, or if you want any chart to be for prediction, feel free to post in this particular blog. Thank you very much.